thanks for inviting me. And thanks also for the inspiring presentations before from Victor. So I will try to give a perspective from the Netherlands. I'm program manager at the province of North-Brabant, head of department, you could say. A background in hydrology a long time ago. But nowadays I'm only dealing with very boring numbers, investing money, where to put it. This is what I will talk about: climate adaptation in Northern Brabant, sustainable groundwater management. That's the question to focus a little bit on drought, so I will do that. Long-term perspectives and the role of our products in that, and an outlook. And it's only 5 sheets, so it's all that's between you and the rings. Climate adaptation in Northern Brabant. They are just a bit shifty, I see in this. What you see is our province down there. Perhaps it's good to tell a little bit about it. It's about 5,000 square kilometers and 2.5 million inhabitants. And it's one of the most intensively farmed regions in the Netherlands, perhaps in Europe. Why is it important? Because all our water resources are coming basically from groundwater. So I just heard the presentation 50-50, and I think it was almost, well, in North-Brabant it's 100%. The little graphic you see down there is from 2017. It shows you drought index of our nature areas. So 100 nature areas. It should be blue. But it's 2017. It's before the droughts we talked about today. This is what I would say painful structural drought. This is what we have to deal with. And of course, a drought like in the last 3 years helps to open what we call the policy window. It creates urgency, you deal, and also as I will show you in the Netherlands. But this is what we have to distinguish basically a structural drought. You could also say over-abstraction. For agriculture, for drinking water purposes, in nature there's also its water demand. I think clinics of yours have also made a study around the water demand of nature. And this is what you see in this picture. What we have to tackle. Klaas told in his presentation about water transition, and what we also call is we have to make a change in trends. There's a lot of Dutch-speaking people in the trend project. And because we have to force the different use of water in our system. Now, how do we do that? We start, like policymakers do, with policy documents. So we produce a lot of paper. And you see that in the, I don't know if you can read it quite well, but we formulate climate policy at the level of the province, at the level of the regional water authorities. I think it's forbidden to call them water boards anymore. And the municipalities. And all these government institutions can make plans. But the interesting part is, like the Blue Deal, how it could translate it into measures. This is actually what we are doing now. I will show you in the next slide. But you do that on different geographic scales. You have to anchor different levels of the government, and you have to do the together with partners. So in the drinking water components we have the agricultural sector and also the nature conservation. It's very important. And our policy core values are indeed climate robustness, trend change, and the water transition. The water transition has not only to do, like Victor presented, with technical measures, water saving, but maybe also with a different level. This is a slide where I take groundwater management as an example of climate adaptation. What we currently do, Klaas mentioned in his presentation, we want to establish an action program for the coming 5 to 6 years. And that's why it would be very interesting to mirror that in Flanders. So we want to follow different tracks on that. Water conservation, I call it a bit enlarging the cake. So how can you make more water available for different use? But it's also how you share the cake. So for what purposes, and I think Mr. Willems had an excellent presentation in times of droughts, but also not in times of droughts. How do you use your water resources? And the third one is, I'll put it there, enjoy the cake. So that you really use it efficiently in irrigation, but also water saving in households, also in industry, the reuse. Yeah. So this is what we try to follow. And these water, and we have all these organizations I just mentioned. We need them to implement these measures. We need the drinking water companies to look for alternative water resources. So we're looking now for brackish water desalination installations, for example, with our drinking water. We're looking with the agriculture sector how to conserve more water. As he showed some measures. But the regional water resources cannot do it. We are the landowners. We have to work together. And of course also with our natural conservation organizations. So we need all these organizations together, not only the government institutions. Oh, I put it on there. The decreasing groundwater level since the 80s, I think you said 30 years, I think that's quite correct, decreasing groundwater levels. And now we have this drought from the last 2 years. So this is what I just showed you. This is what we want to establish also in the framework of the legal obligations that we have from Europe, the Water Framework Directive, what we want to do in the coming 5 to 6 years. But we also are going to ask an independent drought commission to give an outside perspective. Because what I just showed you, partners in Brabant, maybe you know, there's a lot of interests also connected how you use water use. There's also an economic aspect. So we have asked the Commission, it's actually today that this Commission will be formally asked to advise us, independent drought commission, to give us a long-term perspective on the water sources, on the water needs, 2014, but also on the economic aspects. The last part, I think the different presentations today, it was mentioned, the economic part is very important. To give you an example, about 200 million cubic meters are each year extracted from our groundwater in North Brabant by the drinking water companies for drinking water and for industrial use. That's about €1 per cubic meter, what we pay. But there's also irrigation, about 100 million cubic meters in very dry years, about 40 million. And there's no price on it. And what's actually the most difficult part to give a price to is ecosystem services like the nature area. So this is a puzzle we have to solve, and that's why we also need an outside view. Because all the established interests, of course, are saying our water use is most important. So this is the second part we will ask this commission, and we have also spatial planning. We can thank you for your compliments, but we are far from perfect. Because we also have to think how we use our land around nature areas. Land use, spatial planning is a very important part of what we will ask the Commission. Installed in September, and we expect an advice next first half of 2022. We've also asked somebody from Flanders in our Commission. Because we really want to have an outside perspective, not only Dutch, quite high profile commission, not only from the Dutch perspective, but from outside perspective. So it's very nice also to have a Flemish perspective. For example, from the Blue Deal, what we can learn. What are the roles of our products? What can we do? We act as a facilitator, as a mediator between these different interests. We are responsible for drinking water standards. As I just said, we are looking with the drinking water companies, how can we find alternative sources, but also how we can encourage water use, especially for industrial purposes. Spatial planning. Can we, for example, think about buffer zones, climate buffer zones, about nature areas? Because what do we see in the last years? We have these nice nature areas in North Brabant. Now we see intensive farming going towards the close vicinity of nature, because these are wet areas. In times of drought, you want to have water, so you go towards the nature areas. It's exactly what you do not want. So that's a third very important part of our instruments we want to employ. And the last one on here is area-specific water use arrangements. We call it gebiedgerichte aanpak. So about 70 major areas, 100 in total, We look for each area, how can we solve that together with all organizations, all interests that are present in this area. And this is maybe also linked to the community today here. What is our need in terms of knowledge? You gave a very good presentation of why we have to act. And now is the question, what do we need in terms of operational measures? On the one hand, very area-specific measurements, what measures will do, and also, as I heard, that we can monitor the progress. So, if we execute some measures, what will be the effect? So this is, I think, for the coming years, a very specific question that we will have. Last slide, and it mirrors a bit what I just said. It's a very well-built session today to learn from each other. And we have a common period. We could think about cross-border projects to learn from each other on different levels. I think on the policy level, we deal on the level of human misdemeanors. So in calamity situations, emergency situations, ingreps, we're very interested to learn from that. But also on the other side. Also measurements. So on different levels, it would be very interesting to see during discussion now or during the drinks later how we could perhaps cooperate on that. Indirect life horizon. And that's it.